like to.
Well, that's kind of like easy.
Yeah, that's why. Okay, I would like to call to order this meeting of the Highland Park Board of Education. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting, settling forth time, date, and location to be submitted for publication to the Home News Tribune and Courier News and posted on the board's website at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Members of the public who wish to address the board will be given the opportunity to do so before the board adjourns for the evening. Can we do roll call?
Dr. Beatty,
Here.
Ms. Cassell Dunn, Dr. Coleman, Dr. Pixley, Ms. Preuss. Here. Dr. Schoolman, Ms. Stanio. Here. Ms. Vardman. Here. Ms. Voorhees.
Here. Be it resolved pursuant to the Sunshine Act, NJSA 10:4 through 12 and 13, the Highland Park Board of Education will now meet in closed session to discuss the matters related to HIB. These exemptions are permitted to be discussed in closed session in accordance with NJSA 10:4 through 13. Information regarding the board's closed session discussion will be disclosed to the public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Okay.
I'm here.
I move that we move to executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
The personnel committee stuff. Just.
Yeah, I know. Just read whatever we have to approve.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, just the event, yeah.
Over 5 hours. You really?
We have,
Okay. I ran 4:52 by my period.
I would like to move that we reconvene to regular session. Second.
I'll probably have food. won't you?
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Cassell Dunn. Yes. Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Pixley. Ms. Preuss.
Sorry, here.
Okay.
Ms. Preuss.
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Here.
Ms. Stanio,
Here.
Ms. Vardman,
Here.
Ms. Voorhees.
Here. Okay, everyone stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we received a few communications. One about defending our immigrant neighbors, one with an issue with after care pickup, and one was the CPAG officer's resignation. And then we're going to do approval of the minutes from October 27th. Can I move it? Yeah, okay. I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Cassell Dunn,
Yes.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Pixley,
Here.
She said she was here.
Dr. Pixley, Ms. Prus,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Yes.
Ms. Stanio,
Yes.
Ms. Bardman,
Yes.
Ms. Voorhees.
Yes.
And apologies, my audio, I just got it sorted. So this is Dr. Pisley. I'm here.
Do you vote yes?
Yes. I finally got it sorted.
Thank you.
Okay, and then next we have our student representative report.
I'll get us started with news from Irving School. So November has been a month to remember for so many reasons. We appreciate our generous food donations from our families. A handful of our Irving families will be very gracious, and our first graders enjoyed their time at the Highland Park Veterans Day Parade. All of our students loved meeting the Seeing Eye Dog pups and learning about their importance in training. Our PTO had a wonderful glow party, and our staff held an Irving version of the turkey trot for our families. Looking ahead, our kindergarten students will have their Thanksgiving feast and show, and our first graders will have their balloons over Broadway. Preschool is busy preparing for their restaurant unit and refining their play planning. They want to thank people who donated coats to their drive and will be collecting through the end of the month.
For Bartle, they said a huge thanks to our PTO and Nurse Kala for organizing the collection for our Thanksgiving food drive. Also, a big thank you to the community for all the donations. This food will help some of our Bartle families have a wonderful Thanksgiving. This month, we celebrated our veterans with our first annual Veterans Day Assembly and by attending the Veterans Day Parade. We also had an EPIC Epic Game Night where families came together to play games and win games in a raffle. Fun was had by all, and the HP Drama Club will be visiting Bartle to do a teaser of their upcoming show.
And as for the middle school news, the 8th grade award for perseverance. The 8th graders who received a nomination for perseverance, along with the 8th grade teacher team, created the reward that the whole 8th grade class will have for earning the most nominations for perseverance. 8th graders will have the last 2 periods on the half day before Thanksgiving to choose a room and be with their friends. Students can choose to be in the gym, watch a movie, and more. All students will get ice cream too. They want to congratulate everyone on a job well done and keeping up the great work. This November, their focus is on respect. And the NJSLA adaptive test went great, and they're ready and excited to take the test again in the spring. The first marking period is over, and they would like to thank students for doing a great job and working to their highest potential. And they'd like to see them apply that work ethic for the second marking period.
Okay, and lastly, from the high school, they said, we had a very successful fall sports season and are so proud of our student athletes for their hard work and dedication. Looking ahead, we're excited for upcoming school play in December, Peter Pan and Wendy. This fall has also been busy with testing, with our students recently taking the PSAT, which provides excellent preparation for the SAT. And while our seniors participated in College Assistance Day to support their post-secondary planning. Our students also took part in the mandatory NJSLA and NJGPA field test as the state looks to update testing for the spring. The first marking period has ended, so now is an important time for students to reflect on how they did and what their goals are for the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you. And now we have the sorry. Are there any questions or comments for our student representatives? Okay, thank you. Great job. And next we have the superintendent's report.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm really excited to celebrate a lot of students today in our student spotlight and as part of my report. So first, I would like to call up Miss Jennifer Knapp, as I know is in person, and I believe Miss Baldazone, Brooke Baldazone, is with us virtually. Hi, Miss Baldazone. Miss B? Okay. All right, she's muted, but she's there with us in the virtual sphere. So come on up, Miss Knapp.
Good evening, everyone. This is always such a fun event to spotlight some of our students that exemplify our Bartle expectations of being kind, being responsible, and being respectful. So we have 3 students that we are going to spotlight, and I'm going to start with Justice Boyd, one of our second graders. Justice is one of those students who makes every day in the classroom brighter. He is kind, patient, and always the first to offer help to anyone who needs it, whether it's a classmate struggling with an assignment or a friend who just needs a little encouragement. Justice is always willing to help. Justice treats everyone with respect and has a natural way of making others feel seen and included. His kindness and positive attitude set an example for the entire class. We are so proud of the role model he is, and we can't think of a more deserving student to be recognized. Congratulations, Justin. Our next student is Jasmine Sky Levister. Jasmine shines brightly every day through her kindness and positive spirit. She is always willing to help others with their work and offer support with patience and care. Jasmine listens thoughtfully to both her teachers and classmates, showing respect and empathy in every interaction. Whether she's working independently or in a group, Jasmine gives her best effort and helps make her team stronger. Her dedication, teamwork, and gentle leadership make her a wonderful role model to others. Congratulations, Jasmine. Now I'm going to invite up Miss Drackman because she came tonight and she nominated Kaylee Clark. So Miss Drackman, if you could come up. Kaylee, come on up.
You know, Kaylee, I don't even know where to begin or how to keep this brief because it has been such a privilege knowing you throughout your Bartle journey. For those of you who don't know, I have had the honor of knowing Kaylee since she was in second grade and our classes were buddies together. And it's so amazing to see Kaylee passing on that privilege and honor of how she learned to be a Bartle Dolphin to those younger students. She's a wonderful mentor to them. She is everything that represents a Bartle Dolphin. When someone drops something, she's the first one to pick it up. Someone needs help tying their shoe, Kaylee is there ready to help. She holds the doors and she's always there to check in on her classmates, but she also checks in on the adults around the building too to make sure that they're okay and if they need anything. So Kaylee, I am so proud of the young woman that you're growing into. Keep up the great work. And hey, it's your student spotlight.
Thank you, Ms. Knapp, Ms. Baldazone in the virtual sphere, and Ms. Drackman, and congratulations again to our Bartle Dolphins. And I am going to speak on our other two students that we're spotlighting tonight. Both Dr. Morlero and Ms. Washington were unable to be here tonight, but they have prepared words for me, so I will read on their behalf. The first one, this is from Miss Washington, Erin Washington, who is our girls tennis coach. The two student athletes that we are representing are celebrating tonight, Andrea Dumitru and Alicia Dumitru. Andrea has been a member of the Highland Park girls tennis team for 3 years. She has been our first singles player each of those years. That means that each and every match Andrea plays, the other school's best tennis, you have to play the best tennis player in another school. Over her career, she has compiled a 44-18 record. This season, she finished second at the GMC tournament, was named All Division for the third straight year, first team All GMC, and third team All State Group. That is a huge accomplishment. Congratulations, Andrea, for all you've achieved during your career at Highland Park High School. And for Alicia, has also been a member of the Highland Park girls tennis team for 3 years. She has been the team's second singles player in all 3 of those seasons. Over that time, Alicia has an outstanding record of 61 wins and only just 7 losses. That's very impressive. Over that time, Alicia has the outstanding record. She has an undefeated senior season going 23-0 and won the second singles at the GMC tournament, our school's first girls champion since 2010. Alicia has been named All Division for the third straight season and first team All GMC. Congratulations to Alicia for all her achievements and such a memorable senior season. And from Dr. Mortallero. Dear members of the Board of Education, it's truly a privilege to celebrate the outstanding achievements of Alicia and Andrea, 2 remarkable student athletes who have brought tremendous pride to Highland Park through their dedication, talent, and hard work on the girls' varsity tennis team. Alicia captured the 2025 GMC Girls Tennis Individual Championship and earned a place on the All GMC team. Her focus, determination, and passion for the sport has been inspiring not only to her teammates, but to the entire Highland Park community. Andrea, also named to the All GMC team, was honored at the All-State Group 1 third team, a reflection of her relentless commitment, perseverance, and the consistent effort she brings to every match. It is humbling to witness the growth, dedication, and sportsmanship these young women demonstrate every day. Their accomplishments are not only a testament to their individual talents, but also to the culture of teamwork, resilience, and excellence we strive to cultivate across all of our athletic programs. Please join me in congratulating Alicia and Andrea for their incredible season and for representing Highland Park with such pride, integrity, and heart. Their success is an inspiration to us all, and Dr. Mortallero concludes by saying he feels honored to support you on your journey. Congratulations. So I have 2 certificates if you would both come up. The first one is certificates from us, and then also you received these very beautiful certificates from the All Conference at the GMC. So I'd like to present you with both, please. All right. All right, that concludes my report, but I just wanted to give another round of applause to all of our Highland Park students and families that came out to celebrate tonight. This is truly the most exciting part of our evening, is to celebrate all of your accomplishments. So please give everybody a round of applause again. And of course, you're all cordially invited to stay for the duration of our board meeting. However, I understand that you might want to have some celebrations coming up and enjoy and probably many other things to do. So feel free to leave. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Yeah. Now we're going to move on to the first public comment portion of the evening. Again, we're going to prioritize the speakers who are here in person and then move on to anyone who's online. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policy number 0167 establishes and regulates the right of the public to participate in public meetings. Please, if you are going to speak, please give your name and address before you speak. Is anyone here to speak?
Good evening. Can you hear me? No.
Is that on? I just had volume turned off. Can you just talk into it?
Is it on?
Yeah.
It's on?
It is on.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Put it down. Yeah. My name is Diane Feldman. I live on North 4th Avenue, and I am here tonight as the chair of the Borough Commission for Universal Access. And I am here because the role of the commission is to advocate for physical and social inclusion of people in Highland Park or people coming to Highland Park. And we were informed of some of the things that have been going on with the Parent Advisory Group, the Special Education Parent Advisory Group. And I would like to read a letter to you that was sent to the board this afternoon. It was written by Elizabeth Weil Greenberg, who could not be here tonight. But I'm going to read the whole thing as quickly as I can. To members of the Board of Education and Dr. Saska, put your hand to the right. We are writing to express our disappointment with and opposition to the administration's recent actions with regard to CPAG, the Special Education Parent Advisory Group. Many families with children with disabilities wanted to sign this letter, but feared if they did, the district would retaliate and deny their child services. That shows that there is a deep distrust between families and the district and underscores the importance of permitting the CPAC to meet without district representatives present so families can speak freely about their concerns and experiences. As you all know, the Highland Park administration recently informed CPAC leadership that district representatives must be present at all meetings and that all agenda and presentations must be reviewed and approved. Move the microphone to the right. Sorry. And approved in advance by the district. CPAG is a parent. Is a parent-led advisory group as described in the New Jersey Department of Education CPAG guidelines. One that collaborates with but operates independently from the district pick it up. Yeah. Sorry, just pick up the topic. Okay. Sorry about that. That operates independent. Okay. For the district to represent the voices of families with students with disabilities, this independence is essential to ensure that families can speak freely about their experiences and for CPAG to effectively advise the district. Unfortunately, under the district's new position, CPAG would no longer have the ability to fulfill that role. The guide for CPAGs posted on the Department of Education website states, quote, by definition, the CPAG is a parent advisory group. Best practices call for a parent-driven process that works closely with schools and the larger community. Parents can offer input and strategic solutions that help schools overcome challenges and make decisions related to budgets and resource priorities for special education programs and service. The guide also states a CPAG is a state-mandated, district-level, parent-driven group charged with providing input to the local school district on system-level challenges in special education and related service. As a result of the district's decision, CPAG leadership resigned. We support CPAG leadership and stand in solidarity with them. CPAG leadership, all directly impacted parents of children with disabilities, had created a welcoming, inclusive, and empowering multilingual environment. We are deeply disappointed with the district's actions who have effectively dismantled this vital organization. We respectfully ask you to reconsider and reverse the board's decision. Thank you. So, and then there's a list. Since you receive a copy, you have all the signatures. And you also realize that there are parents who opted not to sign, even though they supported it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
I'd also like to make a comment. Most of you know me, or many of you do. You what? Oh, Kimberly Kershaw. 431 South 7th Avenue, Highland Park. Let's see. I was actually involved in the CPAG at its inception, in that my husband organized it in 2006. Yeah. He did this all with his own effort, which was a lot, coming from a family with 2 children with special needs. He brought together a lot of resources, which were mostly donated, and it was a collaborative action. It was really very impressive and I think empowering to everybody to be involved in. Our son took a turn, and we had to focus on him medically. We handed it over. I did sit on the steering committee for a while there, actually. And it was still collaborative with the district. Then at one point, it's a state organization, I can't remember the name of it, came in and said, let's reorganize this. SPAN. Yeah, span. They did a like a in-service for us on how to reorganize it. So we went with their model. It ended up being one person running it for a good long time. But I am aware of all of its iterations in the district. I'm also aware of other groups that were organized prior to when my husband had done the initial organization. And these are really fragile families. And even if they are not being put under the microscope, they still feel like that. And you have to be very careful. And you could build a palace at this point. I'm not sure if anybody's going to show up, and it's a mandate. So I'm not sure where we go from here. These people were giving of their time. And I'm just really concerned for the future of this because of the, my husband and I, as individuals, were also always able to work collaboratively with the district. And we liked modeling that. And I don't know where we go from here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Andy Zappo, resident Highland Park on Johnson Street. I just wanted to come here in support of the CPAG group that did resign and the groups that came before them. There's two people on the group that resigned that I have learned many things from in the course of knowing them, not just around their status in CPAG. I learned about the nature of pronouns. I learned about the nature of speech, things that I was able to apply in my own life with my son. And it's not an easy thing to have to deal with that in your family, but it is something that having a autonomous, free from being structured under a footprint that you guys want to bring down on them is what is required for people to feel safe. How different is that from folks of different genders that you don't go and choose to step on them? So why are you stepping on this group? Is this to feed some ego-driven, we can't have dissension in this township, to try and feed some type of budget? Is that what you have in mind? It's ridiculous. You're not servicing this community. You're not serving the families who need it the most. And I hope you go home and think about your consciences, every single one of you, especially you, Dr. Suska, who had the nerve to look at her phone while this young woman over here was talking. Ridiculous. You don't get to text during these sessions. You have to listen. That's all. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in person? And okay, go ahead, Rob. And I do want to say, I understand that this is very emotionally charged, but can we please not make accusations at people right now? No, I'm talking to the public generally. Can we please try to keep this like safe and respectful on all ends?
Rob Holtzoffel, 431 South 7th Avenue. I've been putting the CPAG group together on and off in several iterations for 20 years. I think it's vitally important for these parents to have this venue. Looking at the best practices of other districts, there is certainly parents-only meetings, and they bring in the speakers that they'd like. I'm not sure, we're an independent group. We're not part of the district. I would like to see this patched up. What matters to me is that this gets put together and gets functioning again to support the parents. I would suggest the change of leadership on both sides. I would like to thank Kristen Springer for her work And I would like to thank Dr. Pixley for her work. But I think two new people to help collaborate and to drive this forward might be the best idea here. We very much want to work with the district and serve in this role. If the district doesn't want to cooperate, we will just become a club and we will do as we like. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in person? Okay, how many people do we have online? Is there anyone who's attending virtually who would like to speak? If so, raise your hand. No? Okay. In that case, I'm going to close this public comment. There will be another public comment section after board committee reports and recommendations. And so I would like to go to curriculum and instruction. Dan?
Curriculum instruction met on November 13th. We talked about two broad issues. One was a number of course approvals. There were a number of them. Most of them were for electives. We had a discussion reviewing the courses to say whether they can be offered. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will run, so that'll be dependent on student numbers. But these will allow us to offer different electives for students, sometimes who I think haven't been preferring the current offerings. There are two English elective classes that were included, Passport to the World and Once Upon a Time. Passport to the World is exploring kind of English through travel. Once Upon a Time is exploring it through children's literature. These are attempts to build some more excitement for activities that really are cross-cutting in coursework. There are also two electives in Spanish. They are for students who aren't necessarily in the AP track in Spanish, but who want more language experience. One builds off a popular film class in English, and actually looked at Spanish films. They're collaborating with the English department in that. World Language is collaborating with the English department. The other is a collaboration with the art teacher around making art around what they have been learning in their arts class, particularly focused around African Americans who served in the United States Marine Corps. And so they've been doing some of this in the art class, and this is actually a connection from Spanish to art. So these are actually some pretty innovative courses to kind of build a cross curriculum. The last one is, oh, not the last one. There's also astronomy and space science. That's a revision of a previous course. Their applications of algebra is an alternative for a third mathematics course after Algebra 1 and geometry. It gives students a more practical kind of take on things that maybe would be included in Algebra 2, but it's not to replace that. But it is another offering for students who want that. And the last one is an edit to Skills for Success. It's already offered as a 5-credit class, but sometimes we have students who move here mid-year. And so it was basically to allow it to be a semester class, not just a year-round class. The other big issue we talked about was the homework policy and grading. There was a question that was raised about weighting homework in class activities and testing in terms of course grades. We realized it was more of a grading question than necessarily a homework policy question. Grading as is defined is either summative or formative. Formative grading includes homework, classwork, and quizzes. So teachers designate whether it's part of that formative or summative piece. Summative includes projects, final essays, and cumulative tests. So there isn't necessarily a homework grade, although homework would contribute to the formative grade. We did look at the homework policy, and it is actually pretty general to allow teachers to make decisions about their specific coursework, that it shouldn't be busy work, that it should be meaningful, it should extend lessons learned in class, so it shouldn't be new material, and provide more opportunities for practice. We actually liked the policy in the breadth that teachers as professionals could make these decisions. Another issue discussed was the kind of fuzzy deadlines where students can turn things in later and later, and that isn't necessarily preparing them for the real world where students will face deadlines. And we discussed that it would be good for to share this policy more broadly with the community, so they're aware of these issues. Yeah, that was the meeting. So in terms of voting items, we have approval of field trips, and I have one piece to read in. The St. Peter's University basketball trip was canceled. I believe that was because of busing. We have approval of 4 unconfirmed HIV reports, approval of university graduate observation. That's from a student in school psychology at Rutgers, approval of home instruction for 3 students, and then approval of those courses that I just mentioned. Are there any questions or discussions?
Yeah, I have a question about the homework policy.
Yes.
So I guess what would we discuss that it would be a good idea to share the policy with the community just to clarify the way that the policy works?
Yeah, and I think also so that so parents are aware of the choices teachers are making, and also aware of the kind of overarching policy so they can understand kind of the homework and whether or not it's being applied. And you can't hear me? I can hear myself kind of ringing.
And it's really loud over here.
Okay.
Oh, it got really loud over here. Just closer to the mic.
Sorry. I think it would be a good idea sharing some, and I don't know, maybe we include this in the minutes after this, but maybe in a superintendent weekly email too. I don't know what the best way to make sure that parents get access to it. But I think just to be aware for how homework should be positioned in classrooms, even though there's some leeway, but I think the policy actually has kind of best practices for homework, and I think we're pretty happy with that, as well as the kind of leeway teachers had as professionals to make decisions. So I think it's really about sharing it just so parents also are aware of that and kind of what's guiding homework.
Yeah, I think it was important that the community sees there's certainly no prohibition on homework in the district, and there's encouragement in the fairly general policy that homework be assigned when it's meaningful and builds on lessons in class. That it not be busy work, but that it be meaningful. And I think there is flexibility in the policy so that teachers can decide for themselves when homework is appropriate and when it actually contributes to what they're trying to communicate in class. I think during the COVID years, I wasn't on the board then, but there may have been a sort of tacit or understood policy that there not be homework because it was burdensome and hard to grade, and students were having so much difficulty just in regular life. That's not the case now, and so teachers can assign homework, students have to do it, and it's an important part of what it means to be a student in Highland Park.
Yeah, I guess my question has to do actually more with the due date deadline situation. In that my daughter, for example, comes home, does her homework, it's no problem. My son, I think about this idea that, having these differentiation between a due date and a deadline, which I think is a good way of thinking about it, although I don't think that it is described, that's a good way of thinking about it. However, that can be confusing. My son is likely going to have a more difficult time with that, where the deadline is going to be the only due date he thinks about. And so my question is, is this program actually helping the people that maybe it's designed to, in order to give additional flexibility? It might actually be harder in some cases. Nikki, it seems
I'm
like.
laughing because I completely agree with you, and I have personal experience with this. That if you give a few of my children that extra leeway, they're going to wait until the absolute last minute or completely forget about it and not ever hand it in. So I think the hard deadline, at least in my experience, my personal experience as well, even for work, I need a hard deadline. If you give me leeway, I'm going to take the leeway. And I think it does help kids stay focused and regimented and structured.
I do think it would be helpful if it was understood between the different teachers or even at the different schools, because not all of them follow the same policy. Some have the due date and the deadline. This is getting louder.
Yeah.
Some have a due date and a deadline. Some have, points off if it's up to, X amount of days late. Some are points off per day. It just seems to really vary by teacher. So I think it's great to have the discussion, just so everybody's a little bit more on the same page. I don't mind the extra date if there are points taken off. I mean, it's a very personal thing, like at least because then there's motivation for that original due date, because otherwise you're going to get points taken off. That's something at least. But there have been other classes that it's just, or it can be a week later, or it can be 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I think it's trying to help the kids that are going to struggle.
Yeah.
But it's actually doing the opposite because they need more fire.
Right.
So I think it's something to discuss.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you guys had that discussion in curriculum, and it's something that can continue.
Absolutely.
Okay, equity and excellence, Monique.
Can I,
Oh.
so, and how would that, I mean, we can have more discussion now. How would that look? I mean, so should we consider adding to the policy some kind of guidance about due dates, deadlines? Would it be a good idea to have district-wide or school-wide or grade-wide? Like, we don't have to discuss it now. We could.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it's set up now. I know it's a policy. I don't think it's a board policy, right? Like, it's just generally a school policy. Is that?
Yeah, it's not a policy, but there are some best practices. I think a lot of the conversation has to be about the word yet. Some students aren't getting there yet, right? And focusing on the whole point of any kind of task is either knowledge building acquisition or knowledge application. And so I think it's important to, listen, deadlines are very, very important. Obviously, there's only 10 months in the year and you have to get things done. But really with the understanding that sometimes some students just need a little bit more time because they're not there yet. And how do we encourage the ability to get work back from students, whether formative or summative, and being able to get the feedback back so that they can learn and then take the feedback and put it into action, so that they can continue to develop their skills, especially in a lot of our classes where the skills build on themselves, right? So it would be like if I'm learning a skill and then I hand it in and now I've got to move on and it's this deadline and I'm not giving them feedback to go back and remediate and rework. Now it's going to build, and we're going to end up in a little bit of a hole. So there's a fine line, and it's very challenging to do, given that every discipline, every student, every discipline and every teacher is really different. To how we might want to do something in math might be different from language arts or from Spanish or phys ed, right? And so I think it's so nuanced in terms of grade level, in terms of content area, giving feedback in a music class and a grade in music is different from a math class. So to put something in policy, first of all, it'd probably go into regulation, which would be how we enact the policy. But I think giving the teachers flexibility is essential for that. I could see understanding, as a teacher myself, a high school teacher, trying to get, a whole bunch of science teachers on the same page. I think that's more likely to say this is how we're going to be as a high school science department in terms of, and that's what we've done. I think Dan alluded to that in his address about the report, was that it's changing it to like formative and summative, right? Something that informs your learning and something that is the culmination of your learning. So we've been working on that to even do things in grade book to be able to communicate that. And then how much of those things are weighted. So I think that's really important, because what I wouldn't want is that all of a sudden now there's like a timeline or a number of things and how many, and now are we just compounding that? So I think there's some things that are nuanced that are part of practice, and other things that give us flexibility. Okay.
Yeah, I think generally the more specific things are probably best handled at department or school levels, because what it means to do homework in second grade is very different than seventh grade, which is different than 12th, right? And so I don't think that's the level of policy necessarily, but it's certainly something we can kind of ask, how different departments or how schools are kind of managing homework and figuring that out. Because I do think, and this is one of the things I think we talked about in this meeting, maybe I was talking about it somewhere else, but I think we talked about kind of coming out of COVID when some teachers weren't assigning any homework, and there's been a transition even just since the 2 years I've been on the board in terms of kind of that understanding. It feels like we're out of COVID. Maybe there's still some more strict kind of practices we can be putting in around homework. Maybe we're still a little soft on deadlines and that kind of thing. But so I think we can keep monitoring this and maybe even asking how different schools and departments are because I do think the idea that this science class versus that science class versus another science class is doing it very differently can also make it harder on students as they go from grade to grade. And so I think that some consistency makes sense too.
Okay, so in that case, we're going to move on to equity and excellence. Monique?
Hello, yes. Equity and Excellence met on November 13th. And our first item on the agenda was a discussion of the making some revisions to our head lice, pediculosis policy, management of pediculosis, quote unquote, head lice policy. Dr. Sefka presented to us that Finance and Facilities had an initial discussion of the district policy in comparison to the existing Strauss policy, and is recommending that as we look at updating specifically protocols around identification and notification, that we use the Strauss policy as a guide there in our tweaks as needed, as opposed to using the current district policy. Our committee did not take a deep dive into the policy yet. We know that that will be happening at Finance and Facilities, and we will be talking more about that policy next month. In the meantime, Dr. Suska has put some recommended or suggested language changes in the document. Then we had special guests, Assistant Principal Brooke Baldizone and Kevin DePayne joined us to talk about RISE Junior and our RISE programs. So starting with RISE Junior at Bartle, Brooke shared that, sort of gave us an overview of the day at RISE Junior, what a typical day is like in the program. So that includes restorative conversation in the morning with Ms. Baldizone, and then students into academics. Students then have an opportunity to get lessons from an SEL intern or RISE specific lessons on high priority areas. And this is all based on sort of individualized referral data on the students who are participating at that given time. And it also includes time for reflection for the students to actually reflect on areas, behavioral areas or concerns that they may individually want to think about and address with the support of the staff. Then they get obviously time for lunch and learn. They also have additional time for finishing up academics. There's a counselor checkout as well as a checkout with Miss Baldazone at the end of the day. And then they also tie in the parents at the end of the day as well, in terms of updating them on the student's day and their participation in the various activities. What Ms. Baldazone shared is that the majority of kids who go through RISE Junior end up expressing genuine remorse and do not typically end up returning, which is really good to hear. If RISE is not effective in instances where this does happen, typically the first time it does happen, the administration will consider changes in consequences. And as she said, this happens rarely. However, there was an example in one example she cited, I should say, was of a student who ended up receiving additional therapeutic and IEP supports as a result of just having some reoccurring challenges and consequences there were adjusted for that student that seemed to be helpful. And at the committee level discussion, we talked about the value in keeping data on the RISE student reflection form. So that was kind of one request, I think, that came out of the discussion, that it would be really helpful to have more of a solid tracking system, and really keeping, again, data on the student reflections would be really helpful in terms of thinking about determining when it's needed to escalate a student to the next tier of support, and having that data to back it up. We also talked about the value of the students' own reflections in tracking their growth and their learning process. At the middle school and high school level, Mr. DePayne talked about how the middle school program mimics the high school program. So changes that were made at the start of his tenure included implementing guidelines and profile sheets specifically for OWL students, so that teachers who are assigned RISE could get a very individualized picture of each student. Again, these are based on their individual profile sheets. RISE, Mr. Payne also shared that RISE moved to the cafeteria, and part of the reason behind that was because the camera in the cafeteria allows staff to better see when issues occur in RISE, and or when students are not meeting sort of the expectations of what they should be doing or how they should be using their time in RISE. He also shared that staff does have walkie-talkies to communicate with administration as needed if there, again, are situations where administration needs to come in and support a staff person in RISE. He talked about students, of course, having to hand in their phones and AirPods at the beginning of the day, and students also complete a reflection form, and they also start and end the day with Mr. DePayne. So similar sort of flow there to the RISE Junior. He discussed some of the benefits that they're already seeing with RISE, and that is the having as close as possible proximity to a student's academic day is a priority in the RISE program. They're seeing that students are benefiting from that. So we're really trying to ensure that students are experiencing as full as possible of an academic day as they can during their time in RISE. Students have access to Google Classroom, for example, and teacher support is needed. Students also are able to meet with counselors, child study team members if the student does have a child study team member assigned to them. They also get teen center support and support service personnel that are available. Students may also be able to go to a specific class if staff finds that it would be beneficial for them. And again, these are decisions that are made on a case-by-case basis, but it was really nice to hear that there are these options for students who are in RISE. So we looked at, or there was discussion, just very brief discussion. I think Mr. DePayne talked about how he looked at the discipline data from last school year this time to this school year. Overall, I guess the key takeaway was has been an overall decrease in incidents and suspensions. So last year there were 189 discipline incidents at the high school to date. 8 suspensions, 3 of which were rise and 4 of which were out of school suspension, involving a total of 7 students. This year, to date, there are 109 discipline incidents, 3 of which resulted in suspensions, and 1 of those were rise. So again, just he shared that little tidbit of data with us, which was, I guess, encouraging to see the overall reduction in discipline incidents. Let's see, let me just go through here. Mr. DePayne did say that there are many students, they're noticing many students at the high school, middle school level who are repeatedly attending RISE. And these students are, he talked about just the importance of students being willing to take advantage of the resources available during their time at RISE. And so that's something that is being acknowledged as a challenge. There is certainly discretion as to what staff offers to students based on what they think would be most impactful on an individual level. But sometimes that means just having students take out time from lunch as opposed to spending the day in RISE. He talked about the RISE program providing access to additional resources with the understanding that students will change when they want to change. So he's really trying to kind of walk this delicate balance of supporting our preteen and teenage students, encouraging them to get the most out of the resources RISE can provide for them, but also understanding that each student is going to kind of meet them where they are when they're ready. Teachers are also being encouraged to address discipline challenges at the tier 1 or classroom level as much as possible to help to reduce sort of the traffic in RISE, and that this is a way also to ensure that issues are addressed in the classroom, giving the teachers that authority. There is not one consistent person at this time assigned to RISE, and that does make it challenging to ensure sort of consistent expectations for staff and students. So Mr. DePayne talked about how important it is that there is kind of this level of consistency in RISE and how staff interacts with the students during their time in RISE. And so again, not having one consistent person assigned to RISE means that there's additional effort that has to be made to ensure that consistent expectations are occurring for students and staff during that time. Let's see, we talked about at Bartle, teachers have to log contacts that have been addressed with parents first, and then they go to the administrator. So this is encouraging parents to help to continue the conversations around concerns that happen at school. And so, of course, when we talked about Bartle, it wasn't in the context of a RISE or RISE Junior program. It was more so on how students, teachers are building relationships with parents and administrators as well to help encourage those sort of school to home connections and conversations. And their noticing has also helped reduce sort of discipline reports that are coming into the office at Bartle. So very happy to hear that. We then looked at the discipline chart for October, and we didn't have at that time the OSS and ISS charts completed. They were being finalized by the building administrators at that time, but we did look at sort of the total number of incidents. And one thing we did notice is that the total number of incidents is considerably higher in each school, or was, I should say, considerably higher in October at each school than they were in September. Ms. Baldizone attributed part of the change in the elementary level to some of the second grade students having a more difficult time transitioning to Bartle. So that was a known factor that she cited. At the upper grade levels, middle school and high school, Dr. Suska cited issues including a higher number of vaping incidents, fights, and drugs as well. And those were reflected in the higher number of incidents at the middle school and high school. Let's see. And then lastly, we just had a quick follow-up with Dr. Suska on the rigor perception feedback forms based on stakeholder feedback. Of course, we discussed this in our last meeting, public board meeting, but based on stakeholder feedback since that time, small tweaks have been added to the language just to provide better answer choices. So now in all of the feedback forms at every school level, there are 5 choices, which give respondents more range there and more descriptive opportunities in their answers. And that is all. Any questions?
One
like, don't all.
one question, and it's so as you were reporting out on the rise numbers from last year to this year, it says 1 repeat offender in each one, and then the next sentence says there are many students repeatedly attending Rise. So I'm a little confused about the repeat offenders. Is that in terms of like out of school suspensions as opposed to Rise? Are they going through Rise multiple times? It sounds like they are. And is the idea that's preventing them from out of school suspensions? I'm a little confused about the repeat offender piece. I don't know.
I think, and I could be wrong, but I'm looking at the notes too. So the numbers that were cited here in terms of the total number of incident suspensions and even this repeat offender one was coming from the high school, if I'm not mistaken. But then my understanding is that they're seeing a lot of repeat offenders at the middle school level, and I thought the high school too, but maybe that needs to be clarified. I'm glad you raised that question. Because now I'm not, and maybe Allison, I'm not sure. I see your hand raised. I'm not sure if you recall specifically, but my understanding was that the middle school had the issue with the repeat.
Yes, I think it was middle school.
Okay, I need to.
Yeah, that while there were, a number of instances at high school, they have not necessarily warranted Rise. But I think the middle school has had more students in Rise more than one time.
Okay, we'll confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. But thank you for mentioning that.
And that makes more sense. At the same time, I think the drop in number of discipline issues at the high school is really noteworthy. That's a large drop. So yeah,
absolutely.
Did want to note that.
This is Sarah from the Ether. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just wondering when we think about like the middle school and just some of the increases from September, I think it was, you said September to October. How do we think about the cell phones? And, I thought that the theory was that we'd be able to reduce just incidences in general. And so it might be interesting to look at year over year. But just that's just on my brain is how all that fits into that puzzle. And if there's something else going on, because, I think the overarching feeling of that it really has helped. But it'd be interesting to kind of dig under. I don't know if anyone has a thought on that.
I think when I sat in central leadership team, they're going to be looking at that group is going to be looking at the numbers, but it was too early the last time we met. And I don't know, I think they set a time later, maybe Dr. Husker remembers, when the central leadership team will look at some of those the overall electronics and impact on discipline, because we certainly had that data in making the decision to change the policy. So I think that's coming, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah, we didn't tie that into our analysis of this data, mainly because for that same reason that I think there just admin needs more time to really flesh things out a little bit. So we'll look forward to having conversations around sort of how our new cell phone policy is possibly helping to reduce the incidents.
Okay, great. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Any other questions?
My only comment, Monique, on that is on what you're talking about on Rise and particularly in the high school. When we did that, when we had that report, sort of an outside audit, the comment was on the recommendations. In the ideal world would be to have consistent staffing, and I think space. Those were two of the things that were mentioned, and both are obviously big budget issues. But I think they
Yeah.
recognize, and it sounds like the coming from the administrators, obviously that's in the ideal world, that would be a really great need to fill.
Exactly. I'm glad you pointed that
Consistency.
out. I mean, we're still, I think they're doing the best with the resources we have. But yeah, those are two key recommendations. And the third one was also having some sort of a central person, not sort of the principal or assistant principal, but a central person, which I know we're also missing at this point. Because in my mind, I just think it's nice. It would be nice to have as we did have in the past, but a person that's not the principal or not the assistant principal, being that sort of restorative presence. Again, I know the idea is to really distribute the leadership around restorative practices and supporting our students therapeutically across the board, but certainly that would be a benefit, I believe, in our programs. But it sounds like they're doing the best they can with the resources they have, and we're seeing some positive results. So we just need to keep pushing.
I guess I have a follow-up question on this same issue about the repeat offenders, which is, so there's more middle school students who are repeating the RISE program. Is that?
That's
what.
Yes, that's what I'm almost 100% certain is the case, and Allison believes that's the case as well. I'm sorry, my note didn't clarify that. I mean, I just want to say for the record, I do not like that term repeat offenders.
Sorry, I'm
No,
sorry.
it's not a personal attack. You're making me think that I wanted to mention this, and I do not like using that term. I wish we could find another term for it. I haven't figured that out yet for myself. But if anyone would like to take on thinking of a word that does not make our students sound like they're in the juvenile justice system. We really want to be very careful. I'm always trying to be careful of language. So again, I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm right with you on that.
Sorry, I saw it in the notes. That's why I was repeating it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I'm working on that. Believe me.
I guess my question is, and from who was there to report on this, but is there something different that the RISE program does in high school versus middle school? Is there a difference?
All right. Well, from what was reported to us, the middle school program is designed to mimic the high school program.
Moni, could you speak? It's probably just the technology, but could you just speak up a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing
Oh,
you.
muffled. Am I muffled or just low? Is this better? Maybe
A little bit,
get
yeah,
little
thanks.
closer to the laptop. So I will say Mr. DePayne did emphasize the fact that the middle school program mimics the high school RISE program. Again, I think there might be some intangibles or not necessarily intangibles, but some more qualitative factors to consider, whether it's like staffing, who's at the different schools and the different relationships with the students, that may be behind some of the differences. But we didn't really get into teasing out any specific differences between the two programs that would be noteworthy. Our sense was that the middle school truly does model the high school program, and they do have the shared resources, of course, as well.
Just to give a sense, because I pulled up the 2024, 2025 numbers. So there's always a jump from September to October. We jumped from 13 incidents to 37 this year. Last year, that went from 57 to 90. So even though there's a jump, and those numbers were much better than the year before. And so, we see that jump, it seems like every year, but our numbers are way lower. So I think that's something to note here too. Then they tend to stay around that number. Sometimes go down by month, but it seems like September just has a lower number of incidents.
Well, I imagine there's some fewer school days in September than there is in October.
Yeah.
As well.
I was thinking I'm sorry, Moni, go ahead.
No, I'm good. You can go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was thinking of Marilyn about that report too, that the recommendation or one of the observations of the auditor was that these inconsistent staffing and space was an issue too. And I thought the way the auditor put that was pretty strong, that if there isn't sort of someone in charge of the program, it's just not going to have the intended effect, because you can't have this person getting to know all of the kids and applying, and like learning from experience what works and what doesn't. is there anything we can do short of having the budget to hire someone for that position to just, put this in someone's realm where we can have someone who's directly accountable for the, for the well-being and for the performance of these kids?
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation is we can definitely put it on a wish list item and see where we land. I'm not sure what state aid figures will come out with. We actually started that conversation today with the administrative team to give other wish list items that, are high priority in the district as well. The thing that you'll probably need is 3 of them, theoretically, 1 for each building. I would strongly recommend that you don't put 6th graders in the same RISE program as 12th graders with the same person. I don't think it would be feasible to even do 2 because Bartle's a whole separate building. So you can't move the kids in between the buildings. So Bartle would have to have 1 middle school and high school. The issue is that there's not RISE every day. So it's not like it's a full, it's very hard to navigate when it's not there's some days where there's no RISE. But there's some days when there's RISE, some days when it's 1 student, some days when it's a couple of students. So, it's really hard to navigate putting in sort of this full-time position, and you would probably need 3 of them if you were going to do the model really effectively, to have 1 person in charge of it in each of the buildings. So, I mean, we could certainly put it in the budget for 3 positions, or at least maybe 2, 1 for middle high school. But again, theoretically, you could be putting a 12th grader in the same sphere as a 6th grader. That could be something, but I mean, we could put it in and then see where we land with, maybe the state will come through and give us lots of monies. I look at Ann for supporting that move, but, with some of the other needs, that the administrative team brought forward, it would be hard to, probably push for something like that when some of the needs are far greater that impact a larger group of students. So just some
Correct me
ideas.
if I'm wrong, though. I thought the report said that there was less consistency about who was overseen at the middle school.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of consistency in Bartle and I think the high school too.
Right, but the assistant principals effectively have some part of it.
Right.
That's a good question at the high school. I think the high school is a little bit easier because of the way their schedule works and their staffing, because it's a duty period. Bartle doesn't have any duties. The teachers don't. So it's consistent because it's always Brooke or it's Brooke, Jen, and I think they see Tara, the school counselor, and then somebody else. So those are the people. So fortunately, Bartle doesn't have a lot anymore, which is great. If they're out, I'm not really sure what they do, because those teachers don't have a duty. And so then each grade, when you go to middle and high school, it gets a little bit more nuanced because it's their duty. So the schedules are quite different for middle and high school in terms of that flexibility.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at the ISS numbers at the middle school are the highest,
Right.
which might also mean why they're distributed more. But if there's a place to prioritize, that would seem to be the place
Right.
to try to create more consistency.
Yeah, it makes, instead of hiring, sure, 3 would be great, but if we only had money for 1 or a half-time for 1 person, I think the middle school would be the priority.
Okay, in that case, we'll move on to finance and facilities.
And finance and facilities met on November 11th. I'll just go through some of the items that we talked about, not nearly as fascinating as curriculum and equity and excellence, but it's important. Under finance, just some pieces of interest. Well, I'll do the agenda after that. We are looking to approve the acceptance of some donations. We were given a donation actually from the Universal Commission, I guess is who spoke tonight, right?
Yeah,
Borough?
universal access.
Yeah, I should say Universal Access Commission. They are donating $750 each for Glow Junior and Glow. There's also a donation on the agenda from Raceway for, I'll check the amount when I get there, but it's this oh, I see it. It's 15,000. Yes, thank you. For basketball warm-up gear, which is excellent. And the Highland Park Education Foundation grant on the agenda is for $5,000. There's also on the agenda an item for a non-resident tuition contract, and that's for a senior who moved out of the district, but will be paying tuition to finish the year. Under facilities, you see that there's additional change orders for the Bartle structural repairs. Still within the original allowance of the project. We talked in committee about the surprises that keep coming up along the way in that project, things that you couldn't know until they start taking things apart. Something about electrical conduits under a floor. It's above my knowledge, but John Flanagan explained it very well. But the issue is each of these things that keeps coming up, they obviously need to be taken care of before the project can continue. So you'll see a number of change orders, and that amount is going up as well. Health and safety checklists, John Flanagan is working on. They're due in December, and he was working on getting the science room hoods repaired prior to these checklists going out. So it's on there. As everybody else said, the head lice policy is now going back to the Strauss Esme policy. So we'll all see it in committee at least one more time this month. So it's not on first read. Control of communicable diseases is on first read. Informational items we talked about, as was just stated, that the budget meetings have begun for the 26-27 school year budget. And in fact, this week or recently, the administrators, they received all their budget manuals, and that sounds like those meetings are starting. You all can look at the budget calendar that was attached to the agenda, and see where we will be reviewing it in January, February, and ultimately, as is required by April 27th, there's a public hearing and we actually adopt a budget. Between now and then, there's a lot of work that's going to be going on those wish lists and on what's needed based on state law and regulations and so forth. The other thing we talked about, which we discussed one more time, the request by a community member to purchase property owned by the district. We discussed it again because there was a request for community input on that decision. And our discussion was that was a board decision to be made. And we had in fact made the decision to not move forward with selling any of those properties and not to look for community input at this time. And then we did a facilities projects update. Baseball fields, sod was going on, and chain link fencing is being installed around the dugouts. Again, the Bartle structural repairs was part of a lengthy conversation. There's also a list that's been put out of like value added changes. Like as this gets done, there are other things that could be done or should be done that would benefit our facilities. We can't make a decision on any of those changes until we know the scope of the additional required work, which we're waiting to hear at that point. So sometime in the future, there'll be a conversation about what else we could or should be doing while we're in the midst of fixing up that area of Bartle. The Bartle bathroom work is going along on schedule. Bids for the additional pre-K classroom are going out. And at that point, there had been a meeting and a site visit. We talked last month here that the greenhouse at the high school was not financially feasible within the money that we had for it, despite everybody's best efforts. So the parties, the people that are involved in what could be needed at the high school, did a tour and a meeting to consider a makerspace and potentially adding maybe an environmental sustainability center in an existing room at the high school. So there's some ideas that were being floated around, and ultimately they'll be doing some research to see the feasibility of doing those. And the agenda, numbers 1 through 6 are the usual, the bills list, treasurer's report, and board secretary's report, and all the certifications that we meet our financial obligations, budget transfers, travel and related expense reimbursement report. We have a list of contractors on the agenda for professional and related services. including school medical services, some other agencies to help with neurodevelopmental evaluations and bilingual evaluations, and others through Learning Tree. So I think these are, we approve them, and then as they're needed, they're available to be used by our district. We also have contractors for professional development. High Tops is one of them. Some coaching in the early childhood area, and Zumba sessions, yoga, and a STEM enrichment program. The yoga is being paid for by the Municipal Alliance. The Zumba is also through a grant, a school-based youth services grant. We have 3 out-of-district placements that are on the agenda. And then the one that I talked about, the non-resident who's going to attend for the remainder of the school year through tuition. We have 3 students needing bedside instruction, 1 student, McKinney Vinto. It's a student who was a Highland Park student to attend Franklin. And under that program, then we paid tuition for that child to attend there. The submission of that health and safety checklist that we talked about is on here. And the actual, what the Highland Park Education Foundation grants will be covering is listed here. For example, expanding the use of classroom whiteboard, helmet safety for Dolphins on Wheels, something for the preschool, I believe it is. Prop making, 3rd grade graphic novel exploration, and 3D printer for robotics, and the Highland Park Fling archival project. So we thank the Highland Park Education Foundation, also these teachers, for taking the time to write the grants. And also their support of the Camp Mason outdoor education program. Then we have the donation from the class of 1975 in the amount of $1,300, and that one that I mentioned from the Commission for Universal Access for $1,500, $15,000 from Raceway, and that's for the home and away uniforms for the boys and girls basketball team. So we thank everybody for giving us these donations. We certainly need them, and it will benefit our students. Also a donation, what is this? Oh, the boost athletic boosters, the amount of $16,340 to get us to install water on those baseball fields, which will certainly help with the sod we're putting down. Number 19 is a student that has been disenrolled. And the number 20 is a non-public technology purchase for the Yeshiva Shaarei Zion Girls School. That's something that we just were required to pass through funds for them to make their purchases. And then 21 is those change orders I talked about for things that we're finding in the Bartle structural repair that need to be done. As well as there's 22 is some change orders for the Bartle bathroom. And then number 23 is an approval of an amendment and submission for our long-range facilities plan. And submission to the DOE. We have a lead service lines that need to be replaced because of lead in the line at the high school, and we are applying for a water infrastructure grant through the state. And as Mr. Rose was explaining to us before, it's a rather big project, one that we want to make certain that we're submitting all of our needs to get that project done. It's a very expensive project, I'm sure. And at the end of all that, we would have responsibility for any work on this that was not within, that was beyond the state funding. So hopefully that won't be too much. And last one is approval of an agreement with NDK Realty for use of their property for basketball practices during the winter sports season. And that's finance and facilities. Any questions?
I just have a comment that I'm really excited that we're revisiting the lice policy. I'm looking forward to voting for it.
Okay. Next month, if we're lucky.
Okay, if nothing else, then do I go through personnel?
Yeah.
Okay. So for action items for personnel, we have approvals of leaves of absences for parental leave, medical leave, approval of resignations. Wilfredo Roman, is retiring at the end of the year. And then we have approval of appointments, including girls basketball, boys basketball, middle school, some other volunteers. We have some very exciting news, which is Mr. Behringer will be a special education teacher at Bartle. We also, with Mix Perez having left, we actually have a orchestra teacher. So welcome aboard, Mr. Momile. And we are also hiring a high school media specialist, Ms. Chapman, coming over. So this is all very exciting. We also have a number of change of prep hours, correction of salary, just having to do with what time of year they started, approval of transfers, approval of professional development presenters and presentation hours. And then in policy and regulation, we have 2 policies on first reading. The 1110 organizational chart and R8451 control of communicable disease. We have number of policies and regulations for second reading. That is 2365 acceptable use of generative AI, 5701 academic integrity, 7424 bed bugs, and then the regulation around bed bugs are 7424 bed bugs. Okay. And now we are going to have our second public comment of the board meeting. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policy, I'm going to laugh about the 6-7 again. Number 0167 establishes and regulates the right of the public to participate in public meetings. Again, if there's anyone in person who would like to speak, they have priority, and then we'll move to anyone virtually who'd like to speak.
It's on?
Yep.
Kimberly Kershaw. I'm
sorry, speak close to the mic so people.
Kimberly Kershaw, South 7th Avenue, Highland Park. I am been a longtime member of the Commission for Universal Access, and I actually was the person who requested that we donate our funds because we hadn't used them. I just wanted to make sure that when in our public, that as part of your public record, part of our public record is that that money would be earmarked for specific student use. So for things that are not funded already currently. Okay. It would be lovely if we got a report back just so we know where the funds went. So we can consider maybe making a donation again. We don't use all our funds every year.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no one else in person, is there anyone online? Okay, if you're online and you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Okay. So then we're going to close public comment and move on to board action items.
For curriculum instruction, I move items 1 through 5.
Second.
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Casaldon,
Yes.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Pixley,
Yes.
Ms. Prus,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Yes.
Ms. Stanio,
Yes.
Ms. Bardman,
Yes.
Ms. Voorhees.
Yes.
Was finance next?
Yeah.
Finance facilities, I move items 1 to 25.
Second.
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Casaldon,
Yes.
Dr. Coleman,
Excuse me, it's actually 1 to 24. I think I said 25. We're moving items 1 to 24.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Pixley,
Yes.
Ms. Prus,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Yes.
Ms. Stanio,
Yes.
Ms. Bardman,
Yes.
Ms. Voorhees.
Yes.
Okay, for personnel, I move number 1 through 5.
Second.
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Casaldon,
Yes.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Pixley,
Yes.
Ms. Prus,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Yes.
Ms. Stanio,
Yes.
Ms. Bardman,
Yes.
Ms. Voorhees.
Yes.
And then for policies and regulation, I move 1 and 2.
Second.
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Casaldon,
Yes.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Pixley,
Yes.
Ms. Prus,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Yes.
Ms. Stanio,
Yes.
Ms. Bardman,
Yes.
Ms. Voorhees.
Yes.
Okay, and now we are moving on to board liaison reports. Is there anyone with a report to report?
Yes. This is Sarah from the ether.
Okay.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So as you all, speaking for CPAG as the CPAG liaison, as you all know, the executive leadership team has voluntarily resigned from their leadership roles. And so just want to very much emphasize that we want to thank them for their incredibly generous donation of their time and their commitment to supporting special education students. As you heard through some folks and just the how it came to be to what it was and the deep commitment from the parents is notable. Consistent with the NJDOE guidance, the district will continue to maintain a functioning CPAG group and will move forward with rebuilding the structure to ensure continuity for parent engagement. There's a bit of information on the district CPAG website, or you can contact Ms. Coppola or case manager for more information. Just want to say we absolutely remain committed to maintaining a strong CPAG group aligned with NJDOE guidelines. And at this point, we want to welcome participation from any parents and guardians who would like to be involved. We're currently reaching out to parents of special education students for interest in a leadership role on CPAG. For our next step, we're going to reestablish CPAG with the guidance and training from the Rutgers Bridge program. This is important to note. This is a shift. It used to be SPAN. The state has shifted to using Rutgers Bridge, and so that'll be the new entity that would work really closely with the parents. And we just, I want just to note just a continuing ongoing commitment to strengthening the relationships and really looking forward to getting parents in and continuing to involve and engage with those that are interested to be involved. And that's what I have. I don't know if there's anything else any other folks would add for that.
Well, anything else that we'll add on that issue, we could, if anyone wants to talk about it, we can talk about it in old business. Does anyone else have a liaison report?
I just want to say thank you to the Commission for Universal Access. They've been giving this money to Glow and Glow Junior, and it's very much appreciated. They are very, they're a big advocate for people with special needs in the community, and really want this money to go to support students who wouldn't be able to do different school activities otherwise. And so I just, as a liaison to I want to say I really appreciate the support that they provide for the district, both monetarily, but also just in advocating for community members too.
Not for the Board of Health, but I think it's in this category. I'm the liaison to the green team, the district. So I left my notes at home, unfortunately, but I did attend the first meeting, which was chaired by Tracy Maiden. I really enjoyed it. It seems like the main focus this year, again, I have my notes at home, but is going to be trying to get from a bronze rating in sustainable Jersey to silver, which and these ratings are given by this independent organization, it's affiliated with the state, I believe, and then they sort of last 3 years. So we're up for renewal, and they've decided to go one level up to silver, which involves new kind of programs and policies and educational initiatives for students and teachers and staff. So it sounds pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to the next meetings.
The Board of Health had a couple comments while we're reviewing the lice policy.
Okay.
They wanted to say from the New Jersey Department of Health perspective that actually one quick thing on bed bugs. Bed bugs are not considered a public health issue. And so that's why they didn't have guidance to share on that issue. We had a question about that last month. As far as lice,
How is that not a public health issue?
it's officially not a public health issue.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
Classification. I'm guessing.
Right. They think it's a great idea to start education on lice at the pre-K level, even as early as possible would be helpful, and to include pictures and just start the conversation early. But they said, don't discount the older kids. They often put their heads together for selfies a lot. So it can transfer that way. I hadn't thought about the selfie thing. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
I hereby move we ban selfies.
Second.
Very popular suggestion. It's going to be.
That was pretty much it.
Okay.
Okay, in that case, we would move on to the president's report, but I'm not the president, and so I am not going to do that. So then it's old business. Does anyone have anything for old business?
Yeah, just briefly, wanted to speak briefly to one point in the letter that was written by Elizabeth Ice Maker. The letter that was penned by Elizabeth Wild Greenberg, signed by some community members, referenced and read by a speaker today. And that one of the claims made in the article that there would have been more parents who would have signed the letter, except they were fearful of retaliation from the district or from, I guess, students. And I think it's terrible if you fear that. I'm truly sorry. Without speaking any particular accusation, I just want to say that, I've been on the board for about a year now, maybe a little longer. I've attended a lot of committee meetings and executive sessions, board meetings, and talk with people, outside of formal meetings. And I can say that this administration, everyone in it, from top on down, is extraordinarily committed to special needs kids, all kids, and seeing that they receive the instruction they deserve as human beings, regardless of, what kinds of conditions they enter the school with. So I just want to speak up for the administration there and say that I've always been very impressed by your commitment to special needs kids, and I'm proud of it.
I wanted to ask if we have any policies or anything in writing on how we work with CPAG, because I didn't find anything when I looked up on our policies and regulations, but I did find a lot of other stuff with parent-run groups and volunteers, and it basically all said the same thing, that if it's something that's run with the school, if the school's not running it, then they have to ask permission first, kind of like the PTO has to ask permission. Can we do this? Can we do that? That kind of thing.
So it's nuanced. The CPAG actually has bylaws that we can share for you review. They probably were on the website, maybe not. I'm not really sure how they were disseminated. I have access that I could share the bylaws that they created, but it is a district-led required organization. So it's not like a PTO in terms of like fundraising and things like that. It's actually just about it's advising the district on special ed programming and like the letter said and the guidance on programming and things like that. So it's advisory. Some examples of how we've leaned into that were including there was some feedback from CPAG, I believe it was last year, regarding how we give report cards and progress reports, but not for like IEP goals and related services. That was a really great recommendation. So as an advisory group, they advised us and the administrative team put it into place. And now there are forms that can be sent to the students regarding specifically feedback on IEP goals and related service goals and things like that. So it's an advisory capacity, in communications that went out on, for example, the 3-to-1 model, the presentations, things like that. But it is a district required group, but doesn't run similarly to a PTO in some regards, but in others, in terms of advisory, it does. So it is a little nuanced, but the Department of Education gives some really great best practices. We've had the members of SPAN come in, in particular, parent for SPAN that has come to try to help us navigate, the how this advisory group should work together. We have attended meetings, but we also leave when it's time to leave, and we allow for one meeting a month they have as their own private group. So we have been very accommodating in terms of coming and going. But the bylaws we can share with you, but it's not, but it does kind of mirror a little bit of what a PTO would, but they don't fundraise or anything like that. But they are a district-led initiative. They're required that we have them, whereas a PTO and things like that are not. They're a 501c3. So that's a non-charitable like HPEF. So I can, they can work with us or not work with us, but a CPAG we're required to have, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
It's good to clarify because it's supposed to be an advocacy, it's not
advisory.
Because I know on the SPAN website or CPAG website, the state one, it says we are not an advocacy.
Correct.
Yeah. And just
sometimes it's very easy to confuse advisory and advocacy because they can kind of mix in a little bit.
Yeah. Sarah, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, just one statement. I want to be, because as you said, it's nuanced. You had said district-led. It's actually a parent-led district organization. So that's the exact phrase. I think it's really important. And so there's places where there isn't room to budge. Like, for example, advocacy, like we want to support advocacy groups, but it's meant to advise, the district. And then there's places where there's decision points. I think that the CPAG, there's where the CPAG works collaboratively with the district and the district works collaboratively with the CPAG to decide kind of their own norms. And so just all that's to say, there's places where there's flexibility and quite frankly, there's places where there's not, because it is now a mandated group, which that wasn't always the case, right? That's been a change. So, and just super nuanced on the parent-led district organization phrase. I want to get that right.
It might be good to get something in writing though, and how we would like to work together, just so there's no confusion for anybody on either.
Right. So I know the department put out an email about their sort of next steps and what they're doing. So if you're a special ed parent in the district, then you received that email. But certainly we can include something in the board bulletin that we could highlight as a result of tonight's meeting to put out. That's not a problem.
And then Monique, did you have your hand up?
I did, thanks. Yeah, I mean, this is a lot. For me, I'm just feeling like this is a major event that just occurred here. We had the entire leadership team of a critical parent advisory group resign. And not by, I mean, of course, as you said, Sarah, they chose to, but I mean, what's missing here to me is sort of the reason why. And I think my question has been, and this is so huge and so disturbing, but to me, I think my question has been, and still is, because I was looking through the DOE guidelines to see, is there actually a requirement that every CPAG every meeting that a CPAG has include district leadership or administration. Because I believe that was really kind of the point of main contention here that really disturbed the leadership team at CPAG, if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry, Monique, are you asking if
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
is a
I asked if
requirement
there-
that the district be at every meeting?
That there be a district representative present at all meetings and that all speakers and presentations be reviewed and approved by the district in advance.
No, so there's
The
no.
Highland Park. Okay.
Oh, there's
Sorry, go
there's
ahead.
no requirement, and that we've been continuing to communicate that there's no requirement that we attend every meeting. We like to support the ones that we can go, and we don't go to every meeting, and we haven't required that we go to every meeting. And then in addition, in terms of requiring for presentations, it's not that it's a requirement. We just ask for best practice to communicate that information, just so that we can ensure that the speakers that are coming in align with board district goals and community goals. The example that I gave, and I'll give to everybody, is for example, I know this is not what they would bring in, but just to sort of make my point here, the board and the district is really moving forward with inclusive practices for a least restricted environment. We've approved the inclusion project for Irving, right? So we've been approving those types of things to move forward to inclusive education, which I think is a really important move. If they wanted to bring in somebody who was sort of anti-inclusive practices, that would be sort of contradictory to something that we want as a goal. So that would be worth a conversation to say, yes, okay, you're bringing this person in, but it looks like they might be sort of kind of pushing another agenda that might not be something that the board and the district is really in support of, and let's have a conversation around it. That's really what it's about. So it's not about that if we don't approve it, they can't have it. It's not about a requirement. It's about open lines of communication to make sure we're all on the same page, which has been communicated several times. And Sarah, please correct me if I'm missing anything. I know you were at more of the meetings than I was, but that is my understanding of what we've been communicating, what I've seen in the chain of communication and my involvement in our work with CPAG is just about communication, collaboration, and just transparency in terms of, here's the speakers that we're bringing in. Same thing, if we wanted to do something, here's what we're doing. So, yeah, Sarah, did I miss anything?
Yeah, I'd say, what I've had always articulated is like, I'm personally certainly not interested in tracking and lurking in that way. And I think, to your point, Monique, what you said is important, which is you're right. This is it's a big moment, right? We had this leadership team resign, and this group really matters. I know personally it really matters to me, and I know to you as well. And so, I think some suggestions for earlier on just how do we restart and really think through and root cause and set expectations up front so everyone feels really good about it. And I think that got to be a really important go forward. So that's just my two cents there.
Yes, thank you. So I guess so to be clear, because again, maybe I know there's more to this than what I may be pointing out, really honing in on, but to me, and looking at some of the communications that transpired between the leadership team and Dr. Suska, the email communications.
Monique, it's the ice maker. You almost got to shout. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
wow. Okay.
But I really want to hear what
Thank
you're
you for telling
saying.
me. Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to hone in on here, the point that I'm honing in on, and I could be wrong, but my understanding was that the main issue here that drove the leadership team to say we can no longer do this is the fact that they were told that there would have to be a district representative at all CPAG meetings. That was one of the major concerns to them, that all their speakers and presenters would have to be reviewed and approved. Now I'm not sure. I have to look back on their email and see if that was something that they had a problem with or not. But I know the idea that the district was requiring, or would be from here on out requiring, a district representative at all meetings was a huge concern. And I could see where it would be for a parent advisory group. So just to be clear, Dr. Suska, you're saying that was never presented to CPAG as a new requirement, that there be a district representative at all their meetings.
Correct. And I can certainly clearly show all chain of communication, meeting agendas and email exchanges back and forth if anybody would like to see them.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's great. I mean, for me and maybe others, but that was something that stuck out to me, especially seeing that, and I know there's variation in different school districts in terms of how CPAG organizations are formed, how the ways in which they collaborate with leadership. But of course, as Sarah points out, and we all understand collaboration, communication, transparency, those should be two-way streets, right? And wherever you are, and when we're talking about CPAG and a school district working together, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't, the administration wasn't adding any additional layers to that we had prior to now not required, and that would be requiring a representative at all meetings, a district representative. I feel like that. I'm glad to hear that you're saying you did not say that would be a new rule. And then the idea of having all speakers and presenters reviewed and approved in advance by the district. Is that also a kind of new requirement that's being asked of CPAG?
There's no new requirement. That's always been something, at least since my tenure as superintendent, that's always been something as a practice that we've done. A shared collaboration and communication and transparency is to communicate with CPAG both ways in terms of sharing who is speaking or what the topic is. In fact, the district has shared our presentation that we did in October on the MTSS and INRS intervention and referral services process. We actually shared our presentation with them ahead of time to give input and suggestions so that they knew that what we were presenting on as well. So it's just about shared communication and transparency that, at least since my tenure in this position, has been something that we have done collectively, is just in terms of, hey, here's our presentation, this is what we're talking about, any input, or here's our guest speaker, kind of any input type of thing, and that's it. So that's always been something that we've been striving for in my tenure.
Yes, and prior to your tenure, I know that there's been that great collaboration that's been building between CPAG and the district. I think also the question about approval, is that a requirement now that?
No, there was never a requirement for any approval. It was that we just wanted to have a communication about who it was.
Okay, thank you. Again, just trying to clarify, since we're having this discussion now in public, and I think it's just so important to sort of air some of this out, just for me personally and for any members of the public or other board members who are just wanting to know more about the root cause here and why we are where we are. And I will just say, I would hope that the administration really try very hard, and I would hope that perhaps the CPAG leadership team that did step down would be interested in coming back to the table to figure out a way to make this work. Because my sense is that it will be extremely difficult to find a way to kind of just start fresh, as if parents are going to really be trustworthy through a starting fresh process on the heels of this sort of really disastrous turn of events for a CPAG organization that has been really priding itself on its growth, its connection to community, its collaboration and partnership with leadership, administration. And I know the administration has put a lot of work into that as well. So I would just hate to see things sort of start new on such a bad note, right? But that may not be necessary. So I would hope that there would be some way to have more discussions, more clarification around, sort of what administration was asking, and hopefully bring back some of leadership that really invested so much of their time and energies and really built really strong relationships with CPAG members. And if they did want to come back, would feel like this is an environment they would want to step back into. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, it's really disheartening to see leadership leave from a parent organization, especially as we actually want more parental involvement. And some of these people are people I very much respect in the community. So it's disheartening to see an entire leadership team leave from such an important parent group. I do want to say, I think this parent-led district group is actually an important important language. So it's parent led, but it is within the district, right? As defined by the state, right? And there were slides actually linked in the letter that we received. I think it's really important to note that it is not an independent group, because independent has been used. And the slides actually, the DOE website actually notes it's not an independent group. It is not autonomous. And so I think what that means is, and I think it sounds like the issue is like how do we collaborate, right? And I think that feels like the point, whether it was through communication or practices or whatever, that really needs to be repaired if possible. Generally, I feel like in these kind of situations, that's not, but it feels like in the kind of reinstantiation, like that collaboration, that communication has to be kind of central in the establishment of it. And then this is a clear kind of moment when that has fallen apart. And so it's really disheartening, but I also think the notion that it's not an independent group, that it is, a district kind of parent collaboration within the district, I think is an important definition of what this group actually is. And I think there might have been either some past practice or some misunderstanding about what that means for a group like this.
Yeah, and to tie a little bow around just both what the two of you all are saying, which I wholeheartedly agree with. When there was a shift of mandating this at the state level, something shifted as well, and it's kind of just resetting, and now we've got a different consultative group that to work with, and I think that's the Rutgers Bridges program now, and I think it's just a really good moment. I hope that just reset, align expectations, and share the sentiment, Monique, that you have as well. As I mean, the engagement has been incredible, and just making sure that we're tracking with the changes that are actually happening at the state level and turning it into something that's personalized and customized to us. And I think that there's naturally some misalignment when things like that are changing, and we ourselves were learning really of those changes while they're while they're happening. And so I think it's just it explains some of that disconnect that I think is repairable, and maybe that's just me being a optimist, but that would be my hope.
Well, and just something that I'd like to add about the importance of the CPAG organization is that, I mean, I think that's the first way that I ended up getting involved in kind of out of school activity. They had that awesome Super Smash Brothers event that my kids signed up for. It was fantastic. But since I've been on the school board, I've seen the contributions that they've made in additional questions, things to look at differently, parental experiences that might not have gotten to the attention of the board or the administration. And this is an absolutely vital connection between special education students and their families and the district. And it's extraordinarily important. And just like everyone, I am, just very upset about the way that this has gone. And hopefully we're going to be able, to rebuild something that's going to be strong and, rebuild some of these relationships. I really hope that, because I know that everyone here is deeply committed to our special education students and their families. And I thought something that Kim said was really impactful to me, which was that, these families are fragile. Because when you're trying to get your kid the help that they need, it's one of the most difficult things that you can be going through, even if the school is as accommodating as possible. And that's a very real thing. And so that line to the families is just extraordinarily important and really the only way that, you know, the administration and the board is going to be able to respond to things. And that relationship is important. And I just wanted to say that. And I really, really hope that we can move forward in a positive way. And, you know, this has been extraordinarily disheartening. Any more old business? New business?
Oh, yes. Hi. So Lami and I were sort of noticing that there's been some speculation among students in the high school about a potential like updated new dress code being enacted. And there's a significant concern about this dress code like targeting female students. So we were just wondering if there was any official policy, since like I said, it was kind of just rumors right now, but students are confused about it.
Targeting whom?
I guess just being especially harsh on like female students. But yeah.
I know nothing about it.
Okay.
So that means that there's been nothing that comes across my desk, which means there's been nothing in action. Because I know Dr. Donovan and Mr. DePayne are very active in terms of their communication. So the fact that it hasn't crossed my desk at all means that it's probably a nothing burger. But that doesn't necessarily mean that rumors come from somewhere. So I can definitely investigate it and get back to you. We can talk to Dr. Donovan and see where those rumors are coming from.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
We heard they were from a teacher, but
Oh.
not
All
sure.
right. Maybe we could talk offline just so that we don't publicly
Um,
share too much information right now.
Can we also talk about? Wait. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I mean, wait, just get closer to the mic so we can all hear you.
Sorry, we had one question, or actually more of something we had to bring up. It came up during the student congress meeting, and we were just worried about the PTSO and the fact that like they need more parent like members in it. And so we were wondering if there's anything that could be done. Some of our potential like solutions was sending out emails, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Does the board have a recommendation? So Lami's asking, they have a PT. So thank you to the previous high school administration for reviving the high school PTSO. We didn't have it for a very long time. So we're very excited to have it back up. I think if correct me if I'm not wrong, but I think it's a middle school, high school shared PTSO. So the board, if you have any suggestions for our student reps to try to engage more parents on part of that organization. Yes. Any ideas, parents?
Ideas? I attend that meeting virtually. I love that there's a virtual option because there are so many different meetings to attend. But yeah, it is a little, I actually thank the students for showing up. I think there were a lot of you was last week or 2 weeks ago. But not as many parents. It's true.
Yeah, I think because parents think that their kids are older and they don't need them, but I think these are the ages where they need them the most, the
Yes.
middle school through high school. And it would be good if parents, I mean, everybody's busy. But if you can make some time to go to a meeting, volunteer for a thing, it would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Any other ideas for them on how to engage parents?
It did used to exist. It was just kind of coupled with Mr. Lassiter's parent advisory committee. So it was like the parent advisory committee / PTSO, but the middle school wasn't really represented. I mean, we would try to, but there wasn't representation there. So now, like you said, now there's a whole board and bylaws and everything, and it's a true separate organization. But how do we get the word out? It's a good question. Something we'll definitely think about. I would certainly love to see more parents there. And I think all the principals do a really good job of doing their own parent advisory committees. There is already that happening at the middle school and high school, and this is different.
Yeah.
So it would be wonderful for more parents to attend.
I think what would help is if students go home and say, Mom and Dad, can you please join? They might actually do it.
Actually, that's a great idea. If you're getting
They might
as
think that
parents-
you don't want them there.
Yeah.
So maybe running a little campaign in school with the students. I don't know if there's some sort of like prize that we could offer or something like that for the student who, every student that brings bring a parent to your meeting day, and you get, or an adult in the community, you get a raffle ticket wins. And I'm sure Dr. Donovan and I can come up with some creative options. Mr. DePayne just sent an email to Target to get some donations. So I'm sure we have something in the pot there.
Maybe, sorry.
As a overly busy parent, I was actually thinking something that might be helpful is like, even if parents can't attend the meeting, to find out what's going on, what they need help with, I might be able to help sometimes, even if I can't make a meeting. So that's,
Maybe some kind of a summary email could be sent out after the meeting. This is what we discussed. Here's where we need more volunteers, rather than each individual event. I mean, they do email when they need volunteers for something specific.
yep,
but I
I'm
would
going to
love
be baking some cookies, I guess.
Yes.
Like meeting
Thank
minutes
you.
for some cookies.
Yeah, like meeting minutes and here's who to contact if you can help. Here's some dates, upcoming dates. I think after the meeting, then everything's pretty much spread out.
Yeah,
And so-
some of us need it laid out for them.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's,
I can pass that on to the leadership.
and I
there.
think that's how Bartle worked. It was like you sign up to be part of the PTO,
Right.
and then you're on the email.
You're on the
list,
email list.
and you're going to get emails about what the Bartle PTSO is doing for all eternity. It's,
And then also constant reminders to join the meetings.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's a place to start. So instead of asking someone to join the PTSO, just like sign up to receive communication from the PTSO and
Yeah, I think there's this idea that everybody's already a member. And so I don't think they're going to send it out to hundreds of parents all at once, but if you sign up to be part of this, that you get the emails, and we hope you attend the meetings, but you're going to get the information either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be, I mean, I would do it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll definitely have this discussion at the next meeting.
I'll try to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's really hard to create a norm if there's no culture of joining something. It's hard to get that started for any kind of organization. So it's a good project to work on, and I'm sure if the board can help with a resolution or some kind of marketing or put in our emails to like be part of a campaign that you guys are working on, I'm sure we'd be happy to help with that.
Thank you.
I just want to say I really appreciate that you're bringing issues to the board.
Yes,
especially
second.
After 2 hours of meeting so please keep doing that.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, any other new business? Okay, in that case, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, everyone.